Okay, so we'll certainly start soon. So in order not to lose time, let's start with it. So first of all, it's great that now we even have more participants than initially registered. This is great because it really shows the importance of this particular topic. And looking now back on the last few years since that particular incident happened, which is known to all of us, really real solutions have been provided and these solutions are really concrete. It's great that that particular incident has effectively triggered the IAMs, that now they can really work with concerted efforts in order to solve such situations. And I believe now we have a couple of years of experience with quite a few incidents. At the same time, RFCs have conducted a couple of simulations, which was also good lessons learned for all the stakeholders. And with this said, this is really still in progress, which is really great, shows that this is pertinent. IAMs, RFCs really have to do something in this regard. And the previous solutions were really just the first solutions, good ones, but only the first ones. And since then, solutions have been developed over time, both from the process side and the technical side. And this is what we are going to hear today. So I wish a very good discussion and a good exchange to all of us. And now let's move to our agenda, which all of you received. So I would not like to spend too much time on this. We try to have speakers both from the process side, the technical side, RFCs also are used in order to have everyone on board and to learn about the experiences from all points of view. And as you can see, we would not like to have a monologue, just presentation, but we would like to have really an interactive exchange with all of the participants. And due to the nature of this online meeting, in order to make it easily manageable, I would like to ask you that if you have any questions, please post them in the chat. And after each presentation, we will answer your questions. And if it's the case that we are not able to answer a question, then we will go to the experts and the stakeholders concerned after the telcon, and you may receive answers after the telcon. So with this said, let's move to the next agenda item, which is about the revised ICM handbook. As I said, there was a handbook before, quite quickly delivered after the Rastatt incident, but that was really the first step. And now we have an improved version, and I would like to give the floor to Ivana Tomekova at RFC Europe to inform us about this so that we can learn what is the improved solution now.
Okay, thank you very much, Zita, for the words. I'm now taking over the screen with the presentation. I hope you all can see it. So I will start with the presentation with information about the revision process, which was started in May 2020, more or less after 2 years of applicability of the original first ICM handbook. The main goals of the revision was to reflect on the experiences which were gained during the real cases, and especially on clarifying the areas which were not so clear in the original handbook. Among the others, it's the coordination and the role of the corridor in coordinating and supporting the ICM cases, and also the need of having backup organization. Then also better clarify the border between applicability of the traffic management measures and the timetabling tasks. So the difference between operational priority rules and allocation rules. Then also the simplification or clear description of communication and disruption management processes, also to better define the cooperation with the RUs. And a big part was also dedicated to a better and wider applicability of the ICM handbook, especially speaking about the allocation rules, which applicability was several times hindered by the national legislations. So the focus was also on this part. We have been working with a specific task forces, each focusing on a different business area. I would say around 30 meetings were conducted altogether before we came to the final version, which is already now published on the RNE website and which was approved by the RNE General Assembly on 19th of May, 2021. Concerning the applicability of the handbook, the official implementation date was agreed from January 2022. However, in relation to timetable-related procedures, as these are very much affecting also the RUs, there is an obligation to have them first published in the network statement. Therefore, the application of new allocation principles can be from the timetable period 2024, let's say at the latest. Now going to the content of the handbook, just briefly, I would not go to every single chapter. If you are interested in the complete content and have not seen it till now, it's available on the RNE website, also in the download section. So the main content consists of the 6 chapters. Apart from the introduction and handbook applicability, it focuses on the definition of the interruption disruption. So in which cases or what are the rules when the ICM case shall be declared. Then 1 chapter focusing on all the preparation processes. So let's say the processes to be done before the real interruption happens. This covers especially the definition or preparation of rerouting scenarios. And next chapter, chapter 5, is covering the complete procedures related to the real ICM case. So what to do when the case happens, focusing on the disruption management process, covering the capacity and BAF coordination processes and allocation principles. And the second is also the communication process. Who should be informed, in which form, when, and when should be telcos organized. The last chapter is more or less providing then the general agreements or rules or general recommendations and describing the roles or the players involved in the ICM process. What is new in the handbook is that we have introduced an annexes to the handbook compared to the previous version. The goal of this annexes is to provide, let's say, some more detailed or practical information, which basically are not written in a stone. So they are kind of depending on the actual situation. So they are more flexible we need a more flexibility to update them. So RNE ICM handbook in general is approved by the General Assembly, but the annexes are within the responsibility of the specific RNE or RFC high-level groups, as they are just providing the practical information. As you can see, there are, for example, the information about companies that commit to the handbook, about the content of rerouting scenarios, then the templates for the teleconferences, instructions how to use the CIP or how to use the TIS incident management tool. And so all the, let's say, more details than in the handbook directly. Now, if I should focus on a main content, not from the chapter or the document structure point of view, I would like to highlight to you the main changes that were introduced in the handbook compared to the previous version. So the first information, we would also have then the second session with the technical support of ICM processes. I will inform you more in detail about the TIS incident management tool, but it was now declared within the ICM handbook that usage of the TIS incident management tool from the IM's point of view is mandatory for the ICM cases, to declare the ICM case and to inform coordinating RFC and affected IMs and RUs via TIS. So this is the first important milestone that was achieved. The next one is more of a I would say, cosmetical change, but we harmonized the terminology. You might notice that we are not speaking anymore about the leading IM or about the railway undertakings. We align the terminology with the standard terminology used also within the EU legislation. So we focus more on the applicants than just the RUs. And we changed the role of leading IM to initiating IM, because there is a specific role for leading IM in the timetabling processes, which is not in line what this initiating IM within the ICM processes should mean. So the terminology was improved. As I said, new change is introduction of several new annexes. So I will not bother with that one any longer, as I presented on previous slides. In principle, the main focus on the handbook is the freight traffic, but we also now stated that the handbook can be applicable and the processes can be applicable also to passenger transport if it's relevant and if it's allowed by the national laws. So basically, there is no if it's possible, then both the handling of passenger and freight traffic during the ICM should be treated based on the ICM handbook. The now more practical highlights or more practical changes, as the experience is shown, the original handbook was posing some requirements which were seen from the IM perspective as very strict ones and were not easy to follow. So with the new handbook, we took a more flexible approach and flexible implementation. So several mandatory processes of the original handbook were made optional to reflect, let's say, all the possibilities and organizational structures of the RFCs and of the IMs. This is specifically related, for example, to the backup organization. According to original handbook, each RFC had to appoint the backup organization, which would take over the ICM coordination responsibility outside of the office hours of the RFCs. In principle, this approach is still favored or preferred. However, on some corridors, especially where the traffic is not so, let's say, intensive, or where there is when there is enough capacity left, this obligation was posing a big problem, especially on appointing the traffic control center, which should act as a backup organization. So therefore, according to new handbook, it's up to the RFC to decide whether the backup organization would be appointed, or there is a possibility to then just simply postpone the first communication or organization of the first incident management telco to the next working day when the RFC is available. So this is an optional. However, each corridor has to mandatorily publish the information whether the backup organization is appointed, or if it's not appointed, then how the ICM case would be treated outside of the office hours of the RFC. So this is a one, let's say, step to more or less create a compromise to not hinder the IMs to not follow the ICM handbook properly. With this optional approach, it's also the connection not optional organization of communication telco, but optional deadline for organizing the communication telco. The official deadline is within 24 hours after ICM case declaration. The first communication telco should be first telco should be organized. However, if there is no backup organization, there is a possibility to postpone this organization. Additional optionality related to communication telco is that, according to the handbook, there is a obligation to organize the incident management telco, and additionally, optionally, also the communication telco, which does not focus on taking the operational measures, but more focus on informations to be published, the press release information and information to other stakeholders. So there is now a possibility that these two telcos could be organized in the same time or separately. It's up to the RFC decision. But again, the decision of the RFC has to be clearly communicated and published within the CID or within the rerouting overviews document. So this was more related to communication procedures and the roles of RFCs. However, the main part and the most tricky or the biggest challenge in the revision process was the revision of capacity and path coordination procedures. So what we did during the revision, clearly the capacity allocation process is following the RNE procedures for alteration of allocated path. So let's say the obligations, which messages to be exchanged, who need to inform whom when the allocation is done is following the existing RNE rules. However, before the allocation is done, before this technical process of allocation is done, there is introduced a new preparation phase, which is called International Assessment of Capacity. And as a main process, where new allocation principles are also included. So I will now switch just to the next slide to show you how these new capacity and path coordination procedures look like. So the main principle or the main goal is first to find the consensual agreement between the involved partners. So the main process starts with the IMs coordinating the capacity on the rerouting overviews, identifying how much capacity is available for reroutings, and creating so-called IM offer. So coordinated IM offer, how many passes on which rerouting options are available. This offer is then consulted with the applicants or presented to the applicants. So applicants can assess then which rerouting options or are they interested in, and communicate towards the IMs what is the applicant demand, in a sense, how much passes per day they would actually require. And based on the comparison of the IM offer and applicant demand, the capacity starts to be allocated, either based on the consensual agreement. So let's say maybe some RUs would give up or shift to the buses, or I don't know, the boat service. The bus is for sure just for the passenger transport, but maybe find some alternative solutions. So whole process is more about the communication and finding a common agreement to satisfy everybody's needs. However, if there is no possibility to find the common agreement, or if some RUs are not satisfied with the agreed solution, as a distribution key of last resort and allocation rules were defined. And here on the right side of the slide, you can see how the new allocation rules will look like. These allocation rules were prepared or defined based on the detailed simulations of a few, let's say, virtual ICM cases. So not based on the real ones, but on some fake cases where we simulated the whole process and were checking the impacts of different distribution rules. And based on the simulation, which was the one which was seeing the most easiest one, flexible, fair one, and not harming any applicant specifically. So the main rules are that the share of every applicant in the last 30 days before the interruption are calculated. In case these 30 days from the backwards from interruption falls to a specific period when there were, I don't know, maybe some summer period with a low traffic, or there were some construction works and reroutings, then it's possible to choose a 30 days period further in the past. But the rule is 30 days and the share of every applicant. After the shares are calculated, RUs or applicants then can inform whether they are interested in getting a path or not. So in the second step, the applicants that will not operate on the line or express no further interest to have a path are excluded from the list of applicants to which the remaining capacity should be distributed. Then we have the list of applicants, and we start the distribution rule in a way that first, every applicant will receive one path per 2 weeks per direction, if possible. But this basically, in the simulation we have made with this rule, let's say every applicant was able to get one path per 2 weeks per direction. Then the paths that are remaining after this distribution rule are then distributed again to the list of applicants based on their shares. So with this one, everybody get at least one path, but then all what is remaining is distributed according to the share on the previous line. And if after this distribution based on the share, it might be that there are still also some remaining passes, then they are again redistributed, usually given then to the IMs which were having the higher market share, because as simulations showed us, the IMs with a higher market share, for example, having a share of 32%, with the first 4 steps of allocation, we were able to distribute maybe just 27%. Therefore, they are getting these additional passes. If you would be interested in the detailed simulation, we have a specific presentation, but I have not prepared these slides for today because it's too detailed and I think we would not manage within 15 minutes. And I think I would just briefly speed up. You see the last 4 slides, but just a brief information. As I mentioned, the annexes of the handbook are in the hands of the high-level groups. I would like to specifically mention the Annex 2 to Icm Handbook rerouting overviews, which in original version approved by the GA was not yet filled in. So we have a special team now working on this annex. We are revising the content of rerouting scenarios and just briefly informed you that there would be a new proposal that the rerouting scenarios would not be a specific PDF documents which you would have to download somewhere. We are foreseeing the automatic process that all rerouting overviews would be displayed in the CIP. And in case of real interruption, you can just download the relevant information directly from the CIP. But I think this is the part then of the next session, which would be presented by Miloslav Kogler. So this is more or less all from my side, and I hope I managed to keep the timeline of 15 minutes. So Zita, I'm giving the words back to you for the question answer session.
Thank you very much, Ivana, for this very comprehensive overview of what has been further improved in the process handbook. In the chat, I can see a question from an RU, Damian Rak. So the question is, with the market share, do you mean that the market share on the line, on the particular line, or market share on all of the lines?
No, market share on the line that was affected by interruption. So this is where the shares are calculated.
Okay, then it's absolutely clear. Thank you for clarifying it. Okay, for the moment, I can't see any more questions in the chat. No hands raised either. So this said, thank you very much to RNet Europe for developing this handbook. Also, thanks to the IAMs for endorsing it in your General Assembly. And now it's on the floor of the RFCs to also endorse it via our managing board. So let's start effectively using this new handbook. And yeah, as obviously, if an ICM case is declared, we have to act really quickly and effectively. And of course, it's not possible without digitalization. And for this, RENET Europe also has solutions in form of two particular IT tools. So with this, we are now moving from the process description to the technical solution. And I would like to now give back the floor to Ivana and also to Miloslav Kogler, who are going to introduce to us what the technical solutions are via the CIP and the TIS of RENET Europe.
Thank you, Zita. I think for now I will take over to introduce you what we have done in the CIP, in the Customer Information Platform of Rail Freight Corridors in terms of the technical support for ICM. The reason why I would start this block of information is that what we do in CIP comes first in the process. Means we have a display of rerouting overviews, kind of predefined off-the-shelf solutions in the anticipation of an ICM case. So therefore, let's first have a look at what we do in CIP. But before going specifically on the ICM support, let me use this opportunity to briefly show you what the CIP stands for in general. So first of all, when I say CIP, I have in mind the customer information platform of all rail freight corridors now. We had 9 corridors who are long-term users or long-term members of CIP. And we have the 2 youngest corridors, Rhine-Danube and Alpine Western Balkan, who have recently successfully implemented CIP as well. So if you look in CIP nowadays, you will find information about all 11 corridors. And what we focus on is to provide all information about the rail freight corridors in one place, in one spot. So everything what is relevant about the corridors, we strive to show in one place. We have 2 elements. One is the interactive map, where you can explore the routing of the RFCs, the infrastructure parameters along this, and also have a preview on the projects which are planned to either remove the bottlenecks or improve the infrastructure parameters in general. This is supported by a full multi-corridor view, meaning you can decide if you want to explore all corridors at once, or if you want to put a focus on a few of the corridors or even on a single one. We have an extended route planning functionality, which has the ambition to offer similar solution as you maybe know from Google Maps. So you can look up for your route, starting from location A to location B, defining waypoints, defining additional parameters. Of course, you won't tell CIP that you don't want to use highways or toll roads, but you will tell it you only are looking for routes which can sustain a certain axle load or a meter load. So all this is already in place. We provide information on rerouting options, and this will be the focus of our presentation later on. And on top of this, we also host the joint document structure. So all the documents which the corridors produce, each of them you can find in CIP Index System. Whenever we introduce something new to CIP, we always have one main criteria in our mind, and this is that any additional feature, any new information we provide should be for the benefit of the customers. So where do we think it's worthwhile, maybe already nowadays, but also in the near future, to come to CIP and explore its contents? We have defined few user cases. One of them is in case of a contingency, CIP should be able to provide you with on-point information where the contingency rerouting options, what are the main parameters along these rerouting options, but also what is the travel time, what types of logos can be used there, and you should be able to take this information with you from CIP with an easy export functionality. This is our short-term goal because many of these elements are already in CIP today, and some more are in the pipeline. So we believe and we are confident that we can provide all of this, what is on this slide, on a very short-term period. Another use case is that you explore the routing and plan your route. Again, many elements are already present in CIP. So as I mentioned, we have the route planning functionality in place, but we plan to enrich it. So besides the infrastructure parameters about your route, we want to combine this with information from other sources to be able to also show you the travel times, the costs of the route, the path availability, and other information. Therefore, this is our midterm vision where we see CIP as the solution for you. In the long term, we would also like to provide you with a comprehensive information about the performance and about the punctuality along the corridor lines by showing what we call a heat map, and also being able to show you where the trains are in general punctual, or where the punctuality is increasing, or where it has a general tendency to decrease, as a tool for planning of your operations. Now, besides the functions themselves, we also ask ourselves, what shall be the future of CIP? Shall we limit ourselves just to the corridors, or shall we go beyond that to the entire railway network? And exactly the focus on ICM processes and reroutings has shown us that we anyhow have to go beyond the corridors, because many of the solutions in case of a contingency require the use of lines which are not assigned for corridors. Therefore, we have analyzed if we can go beyond this, and we have concluded that we would try to do this in a stepwise approach. That means it's not easy to provide a good quality information for the whole European network at once, but we would try on a step-by-step basis to extend what we show you. And we have already started this as a pilot, and with 3 first infrastructure managers already showing their entire network in CIP. These 3 infrastructure managers are Jeshev from partly Hungary, partly Austria, Slovenska železnica infrastruktura from Slovenia, and MAV from Hungary. Besides these IMs, we have further IMs who have shown interest to join this kind of pilot, so pretty soon you may see more infrastructure managers displaying their entire network in CIP. Just a quick table overview where we explore this, where we are. So if you look at all infrastructure managers who are involved in several RFCs, we have nearly 40% of their network mapped in CIP, but in case of 3 of them, it's already above 95% or very close to 100. Now, being done with the general introduction, let's have a look at what we do when it comes to the ICM processes. First, the common information documents. In CIP, we cluster all the documents which the corridors provide, which each of the corridors provide in a common structure. These encompass the corridor information documents, capacity offer, temporary capacity restrictions, but newly also the rerouting scenarios. So each of the corridors produces its own overview of ICM lines and their rerouting scenarios if there is an ICM case on any of these lines. And this is produced in a table document. If you go to CIP, you will find this under one banner, rerouting scenarios, and a specific document, or sometimes even more documents for each of the rail freight corridors. So this is the part one. Now the second step is to convert the information which exists as in a document as a PDF or Excel, that this can be displayed and shown in the map. We have now done this for most of the corridors. Those corridors who are new to CIP are still implementing this, so the document is for now still the main reference, and the map display is, let's say, the new feature, which would always come with a small disclaimer. Nevertheless, if you go to the interactive map, trigger the ICM rerouting function, you will get, on one hand, a window how to use the functionality in 3 simple steps. And you will already see in front of you all the lines which are earmarked as ICM lines, as red lines on the map. They can be either full red lines if there are rerouting options provided. There are some cases where the line is ICM line, but there is no rerouting option available yet. These would be shown as dashed lines. Now, what you do next is that you click on an ICM line which you want to explore further. Then the application will show up a pop-up window with the key information about your selected ICM line, meaning its name, its length, to which corridor it belongs to, and how many rerouting options it features. And the available rerouting options will be shown to you on a map. You will see them in different shades in green, and you can start exploring in the next step whichever of these rerouting options you are interested in. This exploring can be conducted just by clicking on any of the rerouting options, after which the application will show up another pop-up window that features all the line parameters along these rerouting options. This means it shows to which ICM line the rerouting refers, where it goes from, where it leads to, which countries, which infrastructure managers are involved, what's the track length, and then all the main parameters. So you see, for example, in this case, the line category would be always D4, but when it comes to traction power, part of this rerouting enables 15 kilovolt alternative current, but part is not electrified. So you have to consider this when planning your processes. This is where we are today. This is what's available. But we have, as we have heard from Ivana, the process has been recently described further. And we also anticipate in CIP that we would develop the application further. So what we have in mind is extending this feature. I stay with the same example, but what we would offer on one hand is to extend the list of these parameters, which you get at your disposal, with new ones, such as the maximum train length, train weight, capacity indication, maybe a language which is there. So all this would be derived from the process description, and the application would collect this information and would support its display to you. On this, to increase the user friendliness and the usability of this function, we would introduce a solution for, so to say, one-click exploring of the route details, one-click exporting of the table view of what you get, one-click export of the map which you see in front of you, and also the zooming into the map to see your ICM line and the rerouting options exactly zoomed at the moment when you click on them. Optionally to this, we also think already at the moment when you start exploring the rerouting before you click on them, that you get a small additional feature with some icons indicated the main differences between the rerouting line and the ICM line already at the moment when you hover over them. This is something which we see coming up, but we believe that this would further increase the value of the information we provide you in CIP now. Before concluding, just a few information how you can access CIP. There are several ways leading to CIP. First of them is our info page, which is available at cip.rne.eu, but also at the website of each of the rail freight corridors, you will find a direct link to CIP. So all of them are listed here. Maybe one thing which should be stressed, there is no charge for accessing CIP and no registration is required. This is really a very easily accessible online tool. Once you click on the links on those websites, you will arise on the login mask, which looks like this. And at this moment, the only action what you have to do is to declare to which of the user groups you belong. This helps us to understand who are our users. So this is the courtesy you do for us when you explore CIP. You can declare either that you belong to RU, shipper or operator, or to the service facility last mile operator,
customer information
research institution, public authority, infrastructure manager, or other user group. Once you do this, once you press any of these buttons, you will immediately be inside of the application. But should you still have difficulties to access it, there is also a link to our support, and we will gladly support you in getting in. Yep. So this would be it, all from my side. Should you have any questions concerning CIP, please feel free to contact me.
Thank you very much, Milos, for this very extended presentation too. As I can see, one of the questions have already been answered in the chat. Another question comes from Rita Veiga. What do you exactly mean by will it replace CIS? Could you please explain, Rita, so that we can answer?
Oh, sorry. You were saying that you will be able to know the charging from point A to B in a certain journey. Isn't that what CIS does also? Charging information system?
Yes, exactly. Maybe I will come to the slide. What we do in CIP, we don't invent information, but we try to connect to information which is already available elsewhere. That means the charging information is available in the charging information system. The path availability is in general available in the path coordination system. All these applications are filled with very valuable information from our members, from the infrastructure managers, and they are just there, existing all in their own environments. What is our aim in the future is to combine this information and to be able to show them in one customer front end. This could be, from today's perspective, this could be the customer information platform. But of course, there is a lot more information in these tools. We would only display the part which is corridor specific and which is customer relevant. I don't know, Rita, if that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So as I can't see any further questions, then let's see what is the technical solution available in the train information system of RNE.
Okay, so I now take over again. So in the same way as Milos, before going to the details about the TIS incident management, just very briefly the basic information about the TIS, in case you never heard about TIS. So TIS stands for the Train Information System, which is basically a web-based application that supports the international train performance management or traffic management by delivering real-time train data concerning international freight and passenger trains. So in TIS, currently we handle almost a year. So this is a web application which is fed by the information from the IM domestic systems, and this web application offers several different functions. So as I say, the real-time train monitoring in a web application, available also on, we have the mobile phone version, also where the real-time monitoring can be followed. Second service is all the information which we are getting are stored in a data warehouse for the possible post-processing analysis. So we have a range of services focusing on the providing a different performance reports. Apart from the web interface where you can see the real-time information online, we offer also the data exchange in the formats of the TAF-TSI messages. And additional function which I would focus more would be the incident management to support the management of the traffic during the interruptions. But before going into that, just a brief information concerning the TIS. The access to the TIS is free of charge, is offered by RNE to all interested railway undertakings with the international or the national traffic. So any of your companies could require to get an access after signing the TIS user agreement. So if you would be interested, you can either contact the TIS service desk, which is available daily, and the email is just support.tis@rne.eu, or maybe you already also know our TIS managers, the Josef Stahl as the head of TIS and Nectarius Zacharias as the TIS manager. So in case you are interested in general TIS functions, which I mentioned before, feel free to contact them. This is anyhow the basic precondition to take the benefits of the incident management tool, which I'm going to briefly present to you now. So if we speak about the TIS incident management tool, the primary goal of this tool is to record the information about interruptions into the TIS, so they are visible to all the users. Basically, recording of interruption to TIS is done by the infrastructure managers, by their dispatching centers. In principle, IAMs are using this tool for the two different scenarios. The scenario one is that they are just sharing the information about the interruption and its consequences. But there is also a specific group of the IAMs which are using the tool not only for sharing the information, but also for the discussion about the treatment of affected trains to agree which trains should be parked and where. But actually now in this presentation and from ICM point of view, I would focus more on the scenario one within the interruption, because this is what is more connected to the ICM cases. So to just give you a hint of the main functions which the incident management tool offers, as I already said, the first function is to define the interruption, which is relevant to the IAM dispatchers. It's the interface to record all information about interruption. So where it occurs, what is the foreseen duration, what is the reason, what are the capacity consequences, the precise specification of the location of interruption, which types of traffic is affected. So this is what the IAM dispatchers use as the main interface to record interruption. The second menu which is offered is interruption message list. It's actually a user-specific menu, so there you will find all the notifications that were addressed to you about all interruptions. The third menu is overview of interruptions. There you can see all interruptions that were published within the TIS. You also see what was their effect, how many trains were affected, in case this scenario 2 was used, which I showed before. But basically you also can see whether the ICM case was declared and what is the foreseen duration, or for the interruptions that were in the past, also when the interruption was really closed. So in this menu you see all interruptions, and the last menu, overview of affected trains. This is not that much relevant from the ICM point of view, because this functionality is used with this specific group of IAMs that follow the scenario 2, so they are parking the trains. If such functionality is used, then within this overview of affected trains, all the trains that are affected by interruption are listed, and this is the interface which is used for the communication between the IAMs about the treatment of the trains. So whether the train may run, which train should be parked, which IAM should park the train, in which location. So I would not focus on this functionality that much. If you would be interested, you can contact me afterwards and we can make you the full detailed presentation. However, back to practical information, how you as the RUs or also then the corridors could benefit from the usage of the tool. There are basically 3 user rights available in the TIS in a simplified version. First is the editing right, which is actually only available to the IAMs, to the dispatching centers. So this right enables them to define the interruptions in the TIS. Then there is a viewing right. So whatever is defined and available in the incident management tool, everybody can see. This right is available both to the IAMs and RUs, so basically to all TIS users. Everybody see all interruptions, but each user, in case of RUC, only his trains. So the basic TIS rule stays intact with that. So that's the viewing right. And in addition to the view, in case you don't follow the TIS on a specific screen, there is a special functionality in case a new interruption is defined. The TIS would automatically send out the email notification to your email address connected to your TIS user account, and then you will be notified directly also with the link to access the information in the TIS. So this is especially this email notification function is the most relevant from the ICM point of view. Concerning the usage of the tool for the ICM cases, we have a General Assembly agreement in December 2020 that latest by the end of this year, every national traffic control center will record every ICM relevant interruption in this incident management tool of TIS, and thus also notify the affected IAMs, RUs, and RFCs about the ICM case. This obligation to use the tool is now also written in the new ICM Handbook, which would be valid from January 2022 with the 2 main obligations. First is to share the information about the ICM case, and second is also to officially declare and close the ICM related processes. For your information, at the moment, the status of implementation, which IAMs are ready to use the tool in which time frame. So as you see, the red area, in this case, the red is the positive information because these are the IAMs who are already using the tool, and the red and the pink one, they would be ready by the end of the year. And moreover, several IAMs declare to use the tool not only for the ICM cases, but also for other interruptions that are maybe outside of the scope of the ICM handbook. This information then you can also find updated on the TIS website, who is using which application. The specific function for the ICM, I would like to just highlight how this ICM case declaration is done in the TIS. When the interruption is defined by the dispatcher, he has there a specific checkbox to indicate whether the ICM case is declared or not. And if yes, he has to provide the information about the coordinating railfare corridor, and also he can add additional railfare corridors that are affected and should be informed. With this, choosing the coordinating RFC and other affected RFCs, the email notification that is produced by the TIS system about the definition of the interruption is then automatically sent to coordinating RFC, to other affected RFCs, but also to all affected IAMs and RUs that are that are actually affected by this interruption. It's not that just one email to one RFC is sent out. The logic is that all the users belonging to a specific RU or to a specific corridor, which are having this right to receive the notification, are getting an email notification. So you might have even, I don't know, 200 users within your company. If 200 of them are having this receive notification right, all of them will receive this email. So this is basically the current status. We continue on the further improvement of this TIS incident management tool. Currently, the project is ongoing. We foresee new developments to be specified by mid of 2020, with the development possibly by end of 2022 or 2023, depending on the budget. But we are focusing also specifically on ICM-related developments to have even more functional support for ICM processes. For example, integration of ICM contact lists between the IAMs and RFCs, some possibility to download the affected trains for the RFC users, or some automatic reminders to claim the ICM case if the duration is longer than 3 days. But all this is now just currently discussed. These are the first ideas, so which I wanted to share with you, but don't take it as a agreed developments. So these are the first ideas that are under development. In any case, as soon as something would be developed, we would share this information with you, either in some future sessions or through the RFCs, through the RAGs, or through maybe TIS advisory board if you are the part of the TIS. So this is all from my side. If you want to have some more information on this TIS incident management tool, the first link would actually guide you to the business section of the RNE website, where also the link to the information about incident management tool are provided. Second link would guide you to a specific, there is some kind of instruction promotion video describing the incident management functionality. But on that page, you will also see the videos from other TIS functionalities. So if you are interested in TIS in general, you will find there the links. As said at the beginning, user rights you can request through support.tis@rne.eu. But if you want more information specifically about the incident management tool, but also maybe generally about the ICM, you can contact either me, as I'm generally responsible for incident management and ICM within RNE at the moment, or also Peter Shisholak, the head of traffic management and train performance management in RNE, with our contact details. So thank you very much for your attention, and I'm available to answer your questions if there are any.
Thank you, Ivana. I can see 3 questions regarding functionalities in the chat. So first of all, where can the TIS user see within the incident management tool if an ICM has been declared?
Yeah, within the TIS, they can see it actually in the overview of interruptions. Let me show the slide. Which was it? Here within the overview of interruptions, there is a specific column which indicates the time of ICM case declaration, or also if they would open the information about the interruption, the information would be provided there. Information is provided also in email notification. So at the moment, there is no specific filtering function, for example, on a map view that you can filter for ICM cases. You can see on a map all interruptions, but at the moment, the ICM interruptions are not highlighted specifically in a map view. So I recommend to use the overview of interruptions and search for the column with ICM case declaration date and time.
Okay, thank you for clarifying this. Then a very valid question from a customer. If it's possible that RUs can only receive notification emails about those ICM cases which actually affect their trains?
Yeah, actually, this is the main principle of the TIS, that the RUs that are receiving the notification have to be affected by interruption. So the logic behind the system is that when the IM declares the interruption in a specific location for specific duration, the TIS is searching for all the trains that are passing that location within that time frame, and then informing all the RUs that are involved in at least one of these trains that pass the location through this interruption time frame. So actually, you don't have to be afraid that, I don't know, the RU in Germany is informed about the interruptions in Romania if he has no trains or cooperating partners in Romania.
Thank you, Ivana.
Yeah.
But can we perhaps clarify bilaterally? I do not want to take too much time on this issue because I get messages permanently for interruptions which have nothing to do with trains I run on my own or I'm involved in. I would like to find out how I can change this.
Okay, please then get in contact with us directly. It might be that there is some problem behind. Okay. Because the basic logic is that only the trains in which you are involved should be notified to you.
I'm not speaking about the trains, but
interruptions that are affecting your trains or the trains in which you are involved as a partner. Yes.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you for this as well. Then another question concerns the functionalities. In order to cover it, I would like to ask you to briefly recap on which functionalities are already in place in production and which functionalities will be developed later.
Related to ICM or in general?
Exactly.
Okay, so related to ICM, all what I have presented now, so let's say this part, that the IM can have a checkbox to declare the international contingency management and specify the coordinating RFC and other affected RFCs. This is already available. It was deployed in mid of August. Yeah, this enables these automatic email notifications to RFCs. Also, the viewing rights to the RUs and notification rights to the RUs are already available. The only thing which I presented today and are not yet available are information on this last slide. For example, the integration of ICM contact lists, automatic reminder to claim the ICM case if the duration is longer than 3 days. These are just the planned developments. All the rest is already in place and fully working.
Okay, thank you for recapping on this one. And the last question concerns the adoption of the Icm Handbook. Yes, it has been approved by the members of the RNE in May this year. So therefore now it's up to the IAMs to implement it. And it's also now time for the RFCs to endorse it and also implement it.
Yeah.
Okay, then, yeah, this was the last question. So once again, thanks to Ivana and Milos. I believe we are all waiting for the further developments, both of the CIP and the TIS regarding the ICM-related functionalities, as they are very supportive to us. And yeah, before moving to the next agenda item and giving the floor to Emanuela, I would like to share with you that personally, I believe that a few years ago, it was the best decision of IAMS, RFCs, and RENET Europe to take up this particular issue on their to-do list and to deliver the handbook, to deliver IT solutions, because simply the fact that an ICM is not declared every day, not even every week, it should not be underestimated. And it's really great that the stakeholders have not underestimated it, but have found practical ways to deal with it with concerted efforts, and what else could really prove it better than the fact that recently and in the past few years, a couple of ICM cases were declared on a couple of RFCs. So now even more and more experience is available. We have more and more lessons learned, which can certainly also serve for further improvements of the presented tools and the presented handbook, as there should always also be room and need for improvement in this particular case. And now with this, we have selected just one particular ICM case in order to fit into the time frame available. And this one will be presented by the Managing Director of RFC ScanMed, Emanuele Mastrodonato. So Emanuele, the floor is yours.
Thanks. Thank you very much, Zita. I hope you can see me and hear me in a few seconds, maybe.
Yes, we can see you. We can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So thank you very much once again, and good afternoon now, everyone. It was very interesting presentations before me, so I have lots of suggestions for some items to be taken. But first things first, I would like to present ICM real case that we had on our corridor in April. ScanMed RFC was the first corridor in Europe to implement the ICM Handbook from RNE on the field in 2019. Apparently, we have this rule of the champion of the ICM in our karma, because unfortunately, we have a lot of experience with ICM. We had something like 4 ICM cases in 8 months between December 2020 and July 2021. So 3 ICM cases only in 2021. Last one was closed on the 5th of September in Italy, Verona Parona. I have to say that this could appear something unfortunate, as I said, but also it's something that could lead us to think that our IMs, our members, are paying very much attention to the international coordination. And therefore, sometimes, even if we are not strictly in the conditions, in the scenarios for the rule of thumb, when you have to declare, you should declare an ICM case. This was declared in any case so that the international coordination could work better and offer a better quality and better services to our users, to our customers. Of the 3 ICM cases 2021, I will present the first one, which is the only one where we have also a report that has been approved very recently and will be published very soon. I'm opening a presentation now. And this is a presentation from our initiating IM of the ICM case in April.
Sorry for interrupting you. Unfortunately, we can't see it yet.
Okay, I try to work around. Could work now.
Yes, we can see it now. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So this presentation is from the Benetz, which was the initiating IM of this case that described the derailment that happened in Munich East in April 2021. And this is a review of the ICM case. Here's the description of the disruption chronology. There was this derailment in April 24th, and it was in the evening, and therefore there were some switches that were inaccessible. There was, of course, a check, and there was the adoption of some mitigation measures so that the effect of the disruption can be somehow contained. On the 26th of April, there was the information to us, to ScanMed RFC, of the ICM declaration. So just to give you an idea on the of course, we start from the very base where Munich is in the, of course, in the heart of Europe and the heart of the rail freight corridor. So it's quite key, let's say, point for the connections. So the rerouting and its importance in terms of traffic is peculiar. So as you can see in the next slide, these are the different directions that you can undertake. Starting from Munich is the shunting yard, and there's the passenger station on the on my left side. And here's the direction to Rosenheim and Salzburg and Brenner, so towards Austria and Italy. And here's the direction towards the north of Germany and west of Germany, Augsburg. Here we have a detail on the location of Munich East, and the part that was affected by the disruption is indicated here. So you can see that is in the middle of the station, where there is the passenger line, freight line on the part below in the presentation, and on the left side you can see the Munich East passenger station with suburban trains. And there's the Munich Riem terminal on the right side of this slide. The usage of the station of the shunting yard in daily business is changing driver, locomotive, double traction power for gradient at Brenner, the handover between RUs, change train number, checks at wagons, and minor shunting business. Here is a communication plan. And it's very nice table where you can see all the sequence of the actions, also as related as far as the ICM telco are concerned. So after the derailment, there was a communication to the neighboring countries. So, and of course, neighboring IAMs, so over the infra and the RFI. There's a coordination and communication between the traffic control centers, TCC, and coordination for train operations. Keeping IM and RU posted via web conference is, of course, very much important. And this is, of course, according to the ICM Handbook on the IM side. Then we have some other processes that in this case, in Scamet South, has been established within the Brenner Axis Task Force, with joint teleconferences with IEMs and affected RUs. So this is an additional feature that goes a little bit beyond ICM procedures that are in place. Here you can see the days where the teleconferences were held. And the focal points during the disruptions were, of course, train operation, checking the rerouting options. When we started with the first teleconference, of course, the supporting document from the SCAMMET were shared, and this means the rerouting scenarios. There's an Excel file with all the details and the 10T parameters for each rerouting path. There's a SCAMMET ICM document, which is the document that implement the RNE ICM Handbook into our corridor, and there you will have all the lists with the incident managers and communication managers. Then we focus on the capacity on the rerouting lines, checking the capacity for the reroutings, for the restrictions or disruptions, checking for planned construction works, because there could be construction works that are hampering the rerouting availability, so that the mitigation measures get put in place. So this has to be checked with the neighboring country, and is there that the ICM coordination is key. We also have some agreed procedures on the coordination of the Brenner line with the Produktions Vorbereitung Brenner, and there were, of course, agreed modification of the timetable for freight trains. Before going into the overview of the rerouting options, is just, let's say, an aspect that I would like to underline, that, as said before, there is incident manager telco, and there could be communication managers telco. Here as CAMD, we decided that it's more efficient for us, at least, to have joint telcos with incident manager and communication managers. And this has been established, let's say, a couple of years ago, immediately after the Icm Handbook of RNE, the previous version, was in place, and is working. So we would like to continue with it. Is let's say, welcome by our members. They are using it. So now jumping in the overview rebooting options. Here you can see the three options that we described at that time. The option 1 to cancel the stop at Munich East and a rebooting via Munich Nordring. Option 2, that was to use the passenger line from Munich South to Munich Trudering. Then option 3 was trains from North using option 1 and A and stop in Munich Trudering or Munich Rim terminal and change direction to operate train to Munich East, or change direction again and drive to Rosenheim. So that were the options, just to go into the details. Following this schedule, the teleconferences were held, and we arrived until the 15th of May with, of course, works that have been done on the field, and the new switch was delivered, and reduced speed was eliminated, and therefore there was the end of the ICM case. The impact of the trains was assessed, and here you can see some figures, and this is the end of the presentation, but it's not the end of my intervention, as when we talk about the effects and measuring the figures that can give us an idea of the impact of the international disruption, is very important to go into the details and collecting some figures from our members, specifically from the leading IM. This is one of the news from the ICM revision, that we need to collect some, of course, information, some figures to give an idea on the effect. I'm trying to project now the report on this ICM case so that you can see what has been done on this regard. So here at the very bottom of the report, you can see the analysis and the figures we were talking about. So we asked our IMs, specifically the initiating IM, the number of affected trains versus the number of trains in the same line when the service is regular, of course, and remaining capacity and number of rerouted trains per rerouting. Also, this is regular, usual question. Number of trains shifted to other transport mode or trains, not possible, sorry, trains shifted to other transport mode, trains not possible to reroute. And also the number of lost trains, meaning shifted to other mode and not coming back yet to railways. These are more difficult as information to retrieve. So, but what is important is to start reasoning on figures whenever we have an ICM case, so that we can really measure the impact and stay on facts and learning from our experience. I'm starting from the end of the report, but I would like to give you a quick overview. First of all, this report, after we had several ICM cases, it's a new one. It's a new layout we've adopted with our management board. This is one return of experience, one of our learning that we can that we can bring for everyone. That when you have a lot of ICM reports, then writing a detailed report is challenging, of course, because you have to put it in the daily business, and this is time spending. You have to be precise, you have to be coherent, consistent, and you have to present something that is comprehensive. So with this in mind, we decided to adopt a lean report so that you can have an overview of what the ICM case was and how it was tackled according to the ICM procedures in place and the RNE handbook, first of all. But if you want to go into the details, then you have all the supporting documents, meaning, for example, agenda of each single teleconference, supporting documents, the minutes of the meetings, the checklist, which is an important tool for us that is managed by the coordinator of the ICM and the initiating IM. So with this in mind, we decided to develop this lean report. And in this way, you can have an overview, so you can have the information on the disruption at a glance. At the same time, you have all the references, a link to the supporting documents that we store in our IT repository, which is fully accessible by everyone, to go into the details. Wherever you have a question or adapt, you can really go vertically into the let's say, surfing the documents. So that's the result of the implementation, first implementation of this first lean report of the ICM case in April 2021. Okay, that's change log and related documents. Here is important because you have the link to the document. So you see here the key steps of the ICM case. So the interruption, disruption declaration, the first ICM telco, the checklist, the second and third ICM telco, and the closure of the ICM case. So there you have a link to the full set of documents. Then we have a management summary where you can see what happened, where and which was the first step of putting in place mitigation measures and the consequences and so on. So it's nothing else than what you can read on the presentation. Then an overview of the ICM situation, which is also present in the presentation. And that's the added value of the report, the feedback from the participants, and what can we do to improve it. Of course, I have to say the feedback is positive overall. In any case, one can always improve. So we are collecting all the feedback and paying very much attention to this so that we can, let's say, close the circle and having a continuous improvement. So collected feedback on answers on 3 questions. One was the evaluation of the incident management process. Another one was evaluation of the communication process. Third one was recommendation on improvements. Also, these questions are very much aligned with the RNE approach and handbook, of course. So here you can see the questions. Have the concern requirements described in the handbook and scammed RFC documents, in our case, properly implemented? If not, which actions could have been taken differently to better meet these requirements? So that's the first one. Second one on the communication. Have the communication requirements described in the RNE Icm Handbook and scammed RFC documents properly implemented? If not, which actions could have been taken differently to better meet these communication requirements? Why this strict approach, let's say? Because we think that our members and all the IMs gave themselves procedures and documents and working groups at European level. Therefore, we have these procedures in place and we should follow this because we decided to go for this. Our objective is let's put it on the field, let's use it. And if there's something to change, then we can discuss it and change it together. But the usage of these European tools and RNE tools in this case is very important, is essential from our point of view. Therefore, we would like to say on the requirements, meaning have you done your homework So you know the handbook, you should know the requirements. We would like to say on that requirements, because this is commonly agreed. So we would like to start from there. And we can change them, we can improve them altogether if needed, but let's start from there. So it's a way to push on the implementation, to push on the usage, a more and better usage of the tool we gave ourselves. Then I come to the third question: have the requirements described in the handbook and documents properly implemented, and what would you change in these requirements to make this procedure more effective? So here it's a way where we would like to say there are requirements from the European level and the corridor level. If these requirements can be improved, what would you do? So we ask for alternatives, for suggestions, practical suggestions, so that we can make it better. So that's a very direct way of cooperation that we prefer in our corridor on these regards. What about the feedback reported? We have several feedback, and this has been incorporated into the evaluation of the two processes, the disruption management process with incident managers on one hand, and the communication management process with communication managers on the other hand. The feedback was overall impression positive. I am satisfied with the process and overall management. The joint conference of incident and communication managers was considered efficient and effective. So it's positive as overall feedback. Of course, as I said, we can always improve. So we are checking what can be improved. Publishing draft minutes on SharePoint before the meetings in order to achieve more transparency and better preparations for upcoming ICM meetings. This could be perhaps communication problem or access to IT repository problem, because we are already doing this, and not only with minutes, but also with agenda, supporting documents, and therefore we can provide with support in accessing the documents that are, in our case, in a Microsoft Office 365 repository. It's important for us to share these documents beforehand, but also when the ICM telco is finished with the minutes and checklist, because the initiating IM and the other stakeholders can feel important information. And also from the practical point of view, when there are people that are attending the teleconferences that are not the usual reference for incidents and for communication, having and collecting, gathering, recording the names could be something challenging, because there are several languages we need to learn. Therefore, we invite everyone to fill in the documents so that they can provide with full name, contact details and stuff, directly working on these documents that are available for track changes review for everyone. So you simply click on the link, work on the document, close the browser, and this is automatically saved. And this is something that could help from the practical point of view. Another feedback, there was a proposal to visualize the location of the incident by putting a map or screenshot in the protocol or official statement. And we will see the answers and the possible options, solution options later on. There was another remark by Trafikverket, which is our backup service provider, to fine-tune the information on the backup service so that everyone is immediately sure about who is going to handle the ICM case, especially on their side, the backup service side. So no feedback from the communication managers, so far so good. The feedback reported by each respondent was summarized and commented within this report. And the last one that we discussed, the feedback on the backup service. At SCAMED, we decided to adopt specific approach that is called the Icm Hotline. Then we established phone number that you can call, and it's provided from our backup service provider, Trafikverket. When you have the ICM, you call this number, full stop. Then we manage everything in back office. It's a good idea. The implementation demonstrated that it's working better when we receive the information from the initiating IM in parallel, meaning either the backup service referent, which is the traffic control center of Trafikverket in our case, and the RFC ICM coordinator, because there's really the occasion to talk to each other and understanding immediately who can be in charge of it and who can deal with it. And that was the request from Trafikverket, so we decided to change it a little bit, and we are working on this currently with our operation working group. And the leader, Anne Homik, which is with us today. Yes, this was related to the backup service. That there was also an issue that maybe we could clarify today. From our initiating IM, there was an issue of the timing. We know that the telco has to be organized by 24 hours after the information is received. But what does organization means? Where do we want to measure the RFC ICM coordination? From our point of view, organization means that everything is ready to have the teleconference. At that point, the teleconference is organized. As I said, is 12 hours and between 7 and 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. And this means, in the worst case, 24 hours in practice. But before this, you have to check if the references are available. So you will send a warning via email. You have to check if the usual reference for incidents and for communication are the same. Otherwise, you get the new contact details. You have to see if the case is relevant for everyone or not. Because, frankly speaking, very often, an international disruption that is happening in the north of Italy could be not relevant for Norway. And this is normal. And therefore, this has to be checked because we don't want to waste time of our traffic control centers that have very important activities to perform. All these activities are propedeutical for the organization. Then you can arrange a time with initiating IM, and then you propose this time to the other TCCs, to the other IMs. It's not said that this time could be the perfect one for everyone. It's not said that the initiating IM is available 12 hours after the information and between 7 and 7, because they have high priority tasks to be performed, meaning the mitigation measures to start working on the field and so on and so on. Resources are always limited. To make a long story short, we think that organizing the teleconference means everything is ready and the Outlook invitation was sent. And the IM that are involved responded to the Outlook invitation. They have the link to the teleconference virtual room. They have numbers to dial in, local numbers to dial in, which are explicitly communicated. So they are ready and they know the timeline. So that's organizing for us. And this means that it's organized. And it's there, from our point of view, that the performance of the RFC ICM coordination should be measured. Because if we are measuring the time between the information received and the first teleconference held and not organized, the time when you hold the teleconference does not simply depend on the RFC ICM coordinator. It depends exclusively on the initiating IM and on the involved IM's availability. So that's our point, and perhaps it's a food for thought. It's I don't know, as an item to discuss together. So that was the meaning that we gave to the organization of the teleconference, and which was in any case held by 22 hours after the information, meaning between 7 and 7 and within 20 hours after being informed. Further improvements, this issue of the map, but also taking the minutes while coordinating the teleconference. Currently, we adopted this approach, and I still stay on practical arrangements, that we take the minutes and we project the minutes on the screen so that everyone can read it and can correct it real time. And is the coordinator and the moderator that is doing so. There's a suggestion of splitting these two tasks in 2 persons. From our experience, this is not always possible. So we cannot guarantee this because the resources of the RFCs are limited. And therefore, there could be that just one of the managers or the managing director of the RFC is available in that moment. In this case, our suggestion is that maybe the leading IM that has much more resources than a small corridor organization can provide with support so that one person is taking the minutes from the leading IM, initiating IM now, and the moderator from the corridor can coordinate things. So that's the arrangement we are discussing. I guess that it's all from my side. No, that's an important item I was skipping. This issue of the map. There was also the request of sharing a map during the presentation. As I said before, with the minutes, it's more or less the same. We need support with this. It's not possible to moderate meeting, taking minutes and showing maps at the same time for one person or from 2 persons from the corridor. So this has been done by the initiating IM that can support us. But we know, everyone knows, that we are working together with RNE for a new feature using the CIP maps for ICM reroutings. And this is once again the occasion for me to say that we should push and strengthen our cooperation with RNE, insisting on this because we are going the right direction. And this feature could help very much everyone in managing ICM cases, having the benefit of the usage of the CIP maps for ICM rerouting. So there's another occasion where I would like to remark this important cooperation with RNE. Yes, it's all from my side as regards the report. The next steps for us is to check this feedback every time and to go through the details with the operation working group. And there we start from there and we check if it's possible to improve and let's say fine-tune our procedures and our processes. Of course, the operation working group now is very much focused on the revision of the RNE ICM Handbook. That was discussed in our case yesterday, and we are looking forward to continue our cooperation with the other IMs and RNE. It's all from my side on the report on the ICM case. I have a couple of remarks on what has been said before, but perhaps I will use it for questions and answers, if you like. I don't know, where am I with the time slot, Zita?
Okay, first of all, thank you very much for sharing your experience, and really glad to hear that the ICM handbook was a really effective tool for your IAMs and for your corridor to manage this particular disruption. And as I can't see any questions in the chat, so that no questions remain unanswered, if there are any eventually, first of all, before moving to the next point, I would like to ask you to raise your hand if you have a question. Otherwise, we move to the next presentation already. Okay, I can't see any questions, any hands raised either. So
that all is clear.
Thank you once again. Then it means that it was absolutely clear and comprehensive. Thanks a lot once again.
Thank you.
Okay, so I suggest that for the remaining time, we look at it from now the customer's perspective. And for that, I would like to ask Joost Overdijkink, who coordinates the speakers of our Revi Undertaking advisory groups at UIC. So let's see what you learned from your members.
Thank you very much, Zita. Thank you for inviting me next to the RUs. I learned indeed in the quick preparation for the meeting and a few things. And looking at the time, I propose to do two things. One is we have an overview of experience, return of experience of declared ICM cases, but with regards to the time, I propose that as it is also rather is raw material, I would present it just reading it out. I propose that we at ECHO take the time to consolidate it, to make it more complete, and to share it with you in a more complete and more decent document. So that's one, and that would leave me with the question that that has come up, and I will share my screen. Don't expect a big presentation because I don't have it. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Small, but so what the RUs?
Joost,
yes,
could you please turn it on presentation mode?
Yes. Yeah, these small letters. That is a diaporama. So the question that they pose is, what is the interpretation of the trigger moment of an ICM, or when is an ICM declared and when not? And I will explain the question. The question, they have in their experience, there have been several ICM cases or several disruptions that where they would have expected an ICM declaration with all the all the processes and communication, etc., international cooperation that follows from it. And that would be beneficial for the management of capacity and for information and for the management of their expectations of the events. But these ICMs, but these cases were not given ICM status. The examples that are most recent are the different flooding events in Belgium and Germany, all the way to Bad Schandor, which affected, I think, 4 different corridors. And now, if we look at, we look at the handbook, then it seems to be clear, but there is room for interpretation of what the definition is. The 3 calendar days is clear. But then the rule of thumb, 50% of the trains of the affected section need an operational treatment. what is a disruption with a high impact on international traffic? It's basically an open question to the RFCs, perhaps it is also for you not easy to determine when should it be declared and when should it not be declared. So perhaps we can have a discussion on that, or you want to have a discussion on that as well internally on can that be clarified, and what would be your feedback on, for example, those specific cases that were not declared ICM cases, but where the RUs, the floodings in Belgium and Germany, but where the RUs experienced enormous disruptions and would have benefited from an ICM case declaration. So that is, in the short time that we have left, what I would like to ask and what I would like to present to you.
Thank you very much, Joost. Actually, as you all well know, we still live in a world of railways where there is still some definitions for some terms and process items lacking, which would be commonly agreed between all of the stakeholders. But personally, I believe that back in that time, within a really short period of time, certainly a good enough common definition could be found and agreed on between the various stakeholders. Still, I understand that it leaves some room for interpretation because, of course, there is always need for some compromise, and not always black and white definitions are feasible if it has to be agreed on by so many stakeholders at once. So as for now, as we are running out of time, I would like to suggest on the one hand that then these specific cases, whether an ICM should have been declared or not, or why it has not been declared, is discussed with the customers on the platforms of those particular RFCs. But of course, if either any of the RUs or any of my colleagues from the RFCs would like to add something to this, or even from the expert part, Ivana from RailNet Europe, then please feel free to do it.
Can I make before anyone reacts? Can I just add one more thing? I forgot to say that I think this is a very the fact that the RUs miss it in some cases means that they miss something that is experienced as really good and that has an enormous potential, as Emanuele already said in his presentation. I think that process is really good that you're going through, and that effort to constantly improve, the benefits of a well-handled ICM case with following the ICM handbook are very good. So it's very encouraging to see. I think that the RUs would see it rather in more cases than in less cases. So that was last comment.
Okay, thank you for this. Okay, as I can't see any questions in the chat, still maybe either one of my colleagues from the RFCs would like to add something.
Yeah, maybe I will add, Ivana speaking from RNE. You highlighted this extract from the ICM case declaration. I would maybe also turn then attention to the chapter 6.1, disruption management process, where it's also kind of specified the operational process which initiating IM has to do even before ICM case is declared. And there it's also written that RFCs and affected IMs and RUs are informed about the interruption as soon as possible, even if it's not an ICM case. And here the RFC has the role which can suggest to the initiating IM to declare the ICM case, However, the decision about the declaration is purely on the shoulders of the initiating IM. And from reality, we are also aware about some cases which were basically interruptions longer than 3 days, also affecting international traffic, but ICM case was not declared. And there was the single reason that it was the corridor line. There was a good rerouting option, which was easily managed between the two affected IMs. And there was simply no need for announcing the ICM, because the rerouting was organized immediately by the two neighboring IMs, and the traffic kind of continues to flow, even the disruption was lasting 3 more weeks. So this is just one of the examples which I can add, and we have this kind of a discussion during the revision whether we have to make a strict rules or some kind of strict measurement and strictly require ICM case declaration. But especially for the case, as I mentioned, if there is an easy solution which could be easily handled maybe by single IM or 2-3 IMs immediately, the IMs somehow don't see the need to declare the ICM and start all the processes if the traffic and continuity of the traffic is not affected that much. But maybe others can add their experiences or considerations as well.
Thank you for this explanation, Ivana. Simona would like to add something. Simona, please.
Yes, thank you. I just would like to integrate what Ivana said, that the ICM Handbook and the related processes and tools must be conceived as a tool to support and to improve the smooth management of critical situations, not an additional administrational burden for IMs who have to deal with the said critical situations. So if that's why some space of decisions has been left to the IMs when they have to decide whether to declare or not an ICM. The ICM must be an help and not a burden. So if they realize they can manage the disruption without declaring an ICM in an easier way, then it's not worthwhile to start this administrational. And as Emanuele very clearly explained, there are things to do when you declare an ICM. And therefore, I perfectly support what Ivana said, that there are many things that have to be taken into account, not only the two conditions that are indicated in the handbook, but the overall context. And I think that the colleagues in the IMs have all the experience and the professionality to say, okay, now it's the time to trigger the ICM processes, or now we can do it without, and that will work better than starting an administrational process, which could help this time, because we can't do it now alone. So I think that I don't know what happened in that cases that you mentioned, but I am very much comfortable that they took all these circumstances into account. Thank you.
Thank you, Simona. We do hope, Joost, that these answers can dissolve the concerns of your members. And also thanks to Martin for appreciating this flexible approach via the chat. And now Linda from RFC ScanMed would like to know if there have been any improvements in cooperation between RUs regarding ICM cases. Maybe Joost or any participating RUs can answer this question.
You mean have there been are there examples of where there have been improvements? Yes, there are. I think but it's a bit varied. But in some cases, the information the information flows were good. The rerouting was good. The RUs were well served. So yes, there have certainly been improvements. Yeah. So that's also why why you see that it's it can be very beneficial also for RUs to know more about the information on the duration of a blockage, and which allows them to plan ahead. So yes, there is positive feedback.
Okay, glad to hear that. Thanks a lot. Looking at chats, I can't see any questions there. No hands raised either. So as we have now come to the end, I would like to shortly recap that I believe that the high number of participants has really proves to us that we have to keep exchanging on this particular matter in the various fora. And I would like to encourage everyone to use the ICM handbook, to use the TIS and the CIP. And with this said, I would like to wish a successful management of international disruptions to everyone. And of course, as said, all of the presentations and the recording will be shared with everyone who registered. I think was both via email as well as on the RFC and RNE LinkedIn pages. So again, thanks a lot, and so now have a good lunch.
Thank you.
Thanks, Zita. Thanks, RNE, and everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks
bye-bye.
a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you to everybody. It was very interesting.